Here's an addiction that many people have, but almost no one recognizes. It's an addiction not to a substance, but to emotional highs. The chase, the rush, the chaos, the temporary. Because sometimes what feels most alive is actually keeping you stuck. Intoxicating emotions. What's going on, my curious and intellectual people? Welcome back to Intriguing Insights, where deep conversations meet everyday life, looking beyond the obvious to uncovering meaning, challenge assumption, and find wisdom in places most people overlook. Some people aren't addicted to a substance, they're addicted to a feeling. The rush, the intensity, the attention, the chaos, the emotional highs that makes them feel most alive, even when those highs are destroying them underneath. Because sometimes what people call love is actually stimulation. What they call connection is simply the fear of feeling empty, alone. We live in a world that feeds on emotional intensity, fast validation, fast relationships, fast reaction, and fast dopamine. And slowly, people are losing the ability to appreciate peace. Because peace feels unfamiliar. Silence feels uncomfortable. And consistency feels boring. Healthy relationships feels dry because there is no emotional roller coaster attached to it. But dysfunction feels exciting before it feels destructive. That's the danger of emotional addiction. You stop pursuing what's healthy and you start pursuing what makes you feel something the fastest. Some people replay toxic cycles not because they enjoy pain, but because they become unconsciously dependent on emotional extremes to escape internal emptiness. And eventually, you can become so attached to emotional highs that you mistake instability for purpose, anxiety for passion, and obsession for love. In today's episode, we're exposing the addiction that many people don't know that they have: intoxicating emotions. The addiction to emotional stimulation. Because healing isn't always dramatic, growth isn't always loud, and peace was never supposed to compete with chaos to keep your attention. So, if you ever wonder why calm feels uncomfortable, why healthy feels unfamiliar, or why you keep craving intensity even when it hurts you, this conversation is for you. Just to share a little bit, I call myself an extremist, which in a sense I still am. Just where this extreme behavior applies and how I utilize it is totally different from in the past. For one, I used to justify my incarceration for finally having to get it is by being in prison, to my extremist mentality. But here's the thing: during that process, as I was growing, unlearning and relearning, adopting new ways, new attitudes, new perspectives, I came to realize that I didn't have to go through this in order to learn these lessons. Today, I hold this view that I don't have to learn the hard lessons the hard way. But when you have that intoxicating, emotional attachment to life, you feel the hard way, the tough talk, the aggressive speech is the only way you can learn from a situation. That's not true. There's much more healthy and effective and better ways to learn the hard lessons. What if the very thing that makes you feel alive is the same thing quietly destroying your ability to live in peace? Not every addiction comes through a bottle. Some addictions come through attention, through toxic relationships, through chaos, through emotional highs that make you feel good at the moment, but leave you empty every time they fade. And the dangerous part, that most people don't even realize that they're addicted. Because society celebrates emotional intensity as passion, chemistry, and love. But what happens when peace starts feeling boring? When dysfunction starts feeling normal? The brain can become addicted to emotional inconsistency. Why? Because predictability creates obsession because the nervous system stays activated. Waiting, hoping, fearing, chasing relief. What people call passion is often anxiety mixed with attachment. The brain is the command center of the human body, acting as the ultimate processor for thoughts, memories, and emotions, working alongside the broader nervous system. It translates incoming sensory signals into physical actions, vital unconscious functions like breathing and heart rate. So, what does all that mean and how did that relate to now? It means the brain can start craving relationships and situations because the highs and lows create an emotional rush. So, are you a spunky person? Do you just love doing things on a whim? Or is that adrenaline rush to you to just step out into unpredictable situations and just have fun in that moment? But that's what the nervous system is naturally created to do, which can be something you have adopted into an emotional, addictive cycle. So, ultimately, a person can become attached not necessarily to a person, but to the emotional cycle like a drug. Chemicals are released to the brain like dopamine or adrenaline. The good moments can feel extremely rewarding because they come after stress, uncertainty, and emotional distance. Just like we see with an addict in a drug who is away from the drug for a moment and they come back to it after a stressful day and they have a hit. We all are addicted to something. whether if it's coffee, money, shopping, eating, toxicity. This is what we're experiencing. The chemicals of dopamine or adrenaline or pleasure giving after something has fulfilled that emotional distance, that stress, or that uncertainty. Doubt causes you to drive into an addictive behavior pattern. And most people don't even realize it because they believe that addiction only applies to a substance. But the human nervous system can become attached to emotional patterns, especially inconsistent ones. A relationship can produce intense emotional reaction and still be unhealthy for your soul. That's why some people become emotionally attached to people who repeatedly hurt them. Not because the pain feels good, but because the cycle has become neurologically familiar. The emotional withdrawal creates anxiety. The reconnection creates relief. And the brain starts associating relief with love. But love was never meant to keep your nervous system in survival mode. Real connection should not constantly leave you emotionally unstable, mentally exhausted, and spiritually drained. And healing often comes when a person learns this. Peace is not the absence of passion. Peace is the presence of emotional safety. Because the healthiest relationships are not built on emotional confusion. They're built on trust, consistency, clarity, security, and the ability to be emotionally at rest around someone and not emotionally addicted to them. Healthy love does not constantly destabilize you. Intensity is not proof of depth. Sometimes chaos feels powerful simply because peace feels unfamiliar. This doesn't mean healthy love never challenges you, convicts you, or pushes you to grow. Growth feels uncomfortable, but there's a difference between stretched and emotionally shaken all the time. Unhealthy love often creates confusion. You're always anxious about where you stand. Your peace depends on someone else's mood, unpredictability, or approval. You feel like you have to earn security instead of experiencing it. You live in cycles of highs and lows, closeness and distance, affirmation and withdrawals. Because over time, instability can be mistaken for passion. Some people confuse intensity with depth. They think, if I'm always worried about losing it, this must be important. If this relationship feels overwhelming, it must be love. But emotional turbulence is not proof of a healthy connection. Healthy love creates an environment where you can breathe. Healthy love says, I will be consistent. I will communicate. I will not use confusion as control. I will not make you question your worth repeatedly. I will not challenge you by tearing down your foundation. And this applies beyond your relationships with people. Your relationship with yourself shouldn't constantly destabilize you because of your self-condemnation. And your relationship with purpose shouldn't be driven only by emotional highs. So let's take this and apply it to our lives so that way we can develop healthy relationships with others and definitely with ourselves. Observe relationships that constantly drain your emotional stability. Stop romanticizing inconsistency. Pay attention how your body feels around people. Calm, safe, anxious, hyper alert. Learn the difference between chemistry and compatibility. Lastly, ask yourself, am I connected to the person or attached to an emotional experience? And I'm going to leave you with this. God didn't create you to be led by emotional highs. He created you to be grounded in truth. If this episode has helped you to see the connections with emotional highs that you attach to stimulations of or dysfunctional emotional inconsistency, tap that like button and subscribe and share it with a friend or a family member that you think that will benefit from this. Remember, clarity doesn't come from easy answers, but from the courage to ask the hard ones. So stay curious, stay open, and keep looking deeper. Peace.